Hello, everybody. Welcome to our presentation on international students in higher education. My name is Jill Romack. I did my undergrad at the University of Oklahoma in Norman, Oklahoma, and I am currently a graduate assistant with the Office of International Services here at IU Bloomington.
Hi, my name is Michael Ivy. I went to undergrad at Wesleyan University in Middletown, Connecticut, and I am also a graduate assistant in the Office of International Services.
We are so excited to be sharing our presentation with you here today. This is a glimpse of our poster overall. So throughout this presentation, we're going to be breaking down kind of different parts of the research that we did and hopefully enabling you to learn a little bit more about international students in U.S. higher education.
Okay, well, first we have to start with who are international students? We are going to be referring to the legal definition of international students throughout our presentation, which is defined as a non-immigrant whose primary purpose for residing in the U.S. is full-time study at an accredited institution. What this means is that there are many students who have experiences that align with our definition of international students, but are not included in the legal definition for terms of reporting and monitoring. And so groups that are not included in this definition are permanent residents, undocumented immigrants, those with deferred action statuses, and refugees and asylees. In the US, students are categorized as international students based on their visa type. And the most common forms of that are the F1 visa, the M visa, and the J visa. Students with these visa types actually make up 4.6 of all students in US higher education institutions. And so historically, international student enrollment has been increasing since the 1940s when data was starting to be reported. And in 2021, because of COVID, we saw a really substantial decrease in the enrollment due to international disruptions. And so while the international student enrollment decreased by about 15% in 2020 to 2021, that number is now going up. It's in a positive trend. And so in the last year, enrollment increased by 4%.
So looking a little bit about the demographics of international students. International students in the US are coming here to study from all over the globe. And this covers various racial, ethnic, religious identities for these international students. And so as you can see from this pie graph, the majority of international students are coming to study at doctorate granting universities. So R1 and R2 institutions as determined by the Carnegie classification system. However, there still is a sizable chunk studying at master's colleges, associates, special focus institutions as well. So something to keep in mind. Additionally, when we talk about places of origin for international students studying here in the US, the leading places of origin are China, India, and South Korea, with these countries actually comprising over 50% of all international students here in the US. Additionally, leading fields of study for international students tend to be heavy in the STEM fields, so engineering, math, and computer science. But we also see a sizable number of international students studying business, management, and other humanities as well.
So to talk about the international student experience, while international students share a lot of the same spaces as domestic students, there are two main reasons why their experience is very different. I'm going to talk about the immigration side. So as we started by covering that international students are defined by their visa status, their primary purpose of being in the US is attending classes. So international students must maintain full-time enrollment requirements. They can work on campus, but they cannot work off campus. They must update their designated office about any changes to their biodemographical information, any changes to their major, and any changes to their post-graduation intentions. A failure to adhere to any of the federal, state, and university requirements can result in a termination of their visa statuses, which would mean that they would have to leave the country in order to request a new visa to re-enter the country, and that can completely derail a student's educational career.
And in addition to these very structural immigration barriers that international students face, there's also a wide range of cultural challenges that come with studying in a place that may look very, very different from these students' home countries. So we talk about finding familiar food can be hard in a new country, accessing medical and mental health resources, which is very important, as well as facing discrimination and prejudice based on their varying identities here in a new community. We also see that international students report difficulties being able to relate to their classmates and adjust to a different classroom environment. So like Michael said, it's really important for us as student affairs practitioners to be aware of these challenges that international students face that are very unique to the student population that their domestic counterparts do not have to.
So to give you an understanding of how many international students there are at IU, we have found this data from the Office of International Services at IU's campus. So if you're looking to find data on international student populations at your school, I would check out the Office of International Services or equivalent office to get that information. Where we're recording from, the IU Bloomington campus has about 5,500 international students, which is such a large number of students, more than my undergrad institution had all students. But there are also 2,000 other international students at the other IU campuses.
Yeah. So when we look at student development theory for international students, there aren't very many theories specifically for this student population. And so we've chosen two that we think really apply to this specific population. So first off, we have Tinto's model of institutional departure, which explains the leading causes of both departure and then persistence for college students. Something we want to make note of is that institutional support is really important for international students. So it's important that we know that there might be higher barriers in order for international students to persist. And so support in the form of advisors, student organizations, and other informal and formal support systems are really crucial for this student group. Additionally, Schlossberg's transition model discusses factors that influence college students' abilities to cope with transition. And we see that obviously international students have a much higher barrier of transition than their domestic counterparts might have. So it's just important to note that when we're working with these students, meeting them where they're at and understanding that their transition might be longer and might be harder than students that maybe we're used to working with. Additionally, here are some strategies that we personally would recommend for working with international students as a student affairs professional. So some that we wanted to highlight: offering academic support programs for these students, cultivating partnerships between the international community and the domestic community where you're located, and establishing campus-wide partnerships specifically for these international students. And then additionally, we want to point out that NASFA is the Professional Association for International Educators. This is a great resource for student affairs professionals who are maybe curious about learning more about working with international students or currently do a lot of work with international students. So NASFA holds conferences, workshops, training, and they have a really great advisor manual that we would recommend if you're interested in learning more about working with our awesome international students. Here is another glimpse at our poster. If you would like to learn more about the research that we did, we would point you to our attached poster as well as our academic brief. We have some references and recommended resources there as well if you are interested in further study. But we're so thankful for you for taking the time to view this presentation and hope that you learned something about international students. Thank you so much.